My name is Vaisakh Varkey Mathunny. I'm from India, and yes, the career, we start a company called 2 Plus Design Collective, and we are in 4 different states in India, throughout the south majorly. As you know, like India is a big place. And recently, last 2 years back, we started a studio in Dubai, and we work probably in Saudi Arabia a lot, Dubai, major retail projects mostly now. And in India, the studio is multidisciplinary. We do products, we do research, we do projects of multiple kinds, majorly master plan, large scale neighborhood development, towers, a lot to do with buildings, and then we do a lot of public spaces. We also have a division where we concentrate on special retails, special houses. So we as a studio, how do I say, I always used to say to people, like, we are like Mossad, we don't exist. So we are a small set of people, probably around 70 architects now, with collaborators, or probably 50 more consultants working together to create a change in country and change in also the new generation, I would say. So we are a very responsible firm. We work very closely with the government, and super special projects where we thought that is the way that building has to be built, probably more sustainable, more in terms of probably how do I say, a standpoint where the building takes or a community takes. That is what probably the building do. To tell a bit about the start, it was started as a small firm with 2 people, me and my classmate. So we decided to start the office up. We wanted to always work abroad, so I was Berlin in earlier days. I did my internship, I started working, then I quit the studio, came back and started something in my own country. That's how we started, and it was a quite adventurous start, but of course people supported us. We had amazing collaborators, and yeah, the studio is growing, and we're looking forward to collaborate further with people from all across the world to make a change. So this fair is all about connected worlds. So I would say that the first thing that would like to generally talk about connection, because I always have thought, or generally we think, why do you become relevant? What is the relevance of you as a person in the billions of people? I think the connection that we make, the family that we have, the people that we work with, the memories that we create, which is all us. That's only relevance that you have in this world. And the connections evolves you. It starts questioning your root purpose. It starts telling you that what you should do and how you should do collectively. These are all very important for our firm and me, because connections with the people and my evolution with the places and the people that I met has formed the practice altogether, and the way that we do things has become more to do with the neighborhood than just having the ego of doing something. It's just because these connections to me. And telling about connections today, we have been extremely fortunate to actually work with best of the people in the world. We have super cool collaborators, and one of the major collaborators that I have met in my very early days was called Milan. He's from Siena, he's my partner. We have a studio together in Bangalore where we do special projects, especially museums. So I think when I was young, I met this guy in Siena, in Palio. I was just sitting and then having a coffee. So he comes in, and then I start talking about, so I came with like much more senior architects, so I got in the ride, and then I just came in the space. I wanted to see the space. But then he started talking more about the poetic nature of the buildings, the poetic nature of the city. And he started reminding me that an architect is not just a guy who just a building, but also find layers in a building. Like he also kind of reminded me to be a poet, a philosopher, an artist, and an engineer at the same time. So I felt that these connections has kind of changed the way that I look my practice. Another one was my teacher, who was called Professor Gundan Nest. So we have a collaboration today called 2 Plus Habitat Forum, where we do projects for the underprivileged mostly. So we work extensively in Dhaka, Bangladesh for the slum rehabilitation projects. And now this year we are doing our first book together, where he has mapped for the last 27 years how the city moved and how the people moved, and how the spaces that we create is more than the people and its needs, but the necessities, but also sociological and psychological, and how the things have been evolving, with an absolute, how do I say, sense around the people rather than the creators who decide that how the spaces has to be. So these are somebody that again influenced my practice. Then now we have like multiple friends, different things that we do. Another one that I work with is now in St. Gallen, Switzerland, with one of my close friend called Andy, that I met behind the church in Milan. So we are doing his flagship store in St. Gallen, where the first time that I met this guy, when I started talking to him, I understood that how honesty in design is more important than the idea that we portray as a finished product, I would say. So he has a firm called Azado, where they do one of the best grills in the world. But probably the design was extremely honest, that now the showroom that we are doing it together is absolutely raw as possible and super technical. So when you talk about connections, all these factors which you actually met and about to meet, I think will transform the way that you actually think about the world. And I think maybe the most important part about connection is that how open you are. I think the more educated that you are, the more open we should be. Because in earlier days, I would say it was basic literacy, education, occupation, keeping your space well. So if you look at Europe, it is more like a developed country. And look at the place I come from, it's a developing country. So maybe that means that we are also the first generation to get mass educated, to get the best of the necessities that we have got. Now we could choose that what we want to become. So we can talk about culture, we can talk about things that we want to do much further than probably just the necessity of a shelter or a necessity of a product. So yeah, connections for me is super important. And today, if you really look at even the other side, like between the physical and probably the virtual world, I would say. Like it's amazing to see that I am not so old in my profession. Like I hardly have 13 years of practice, but when I see the youngsters in my office who's like 3 years to 5 years, they do like 10 times the task that I do. But if you think, I think as a person or a firm, if you have the clarity on what you want to do, and if you know what are your roots like, where you want to stand and how you would want to think, what you want to change, then I think we are living in one of the best places in the world, because the place has become shrunk. The world has become such a small place where you can actually make and get the best of the things in the world to probably all across the world. The borders doesn't exist. Like, I really like this song from John Lennon called Imagine. I am sure that if you don't know, you should actually listen to it, where he imagines a world without borders. I feel that it has almost become the same in a virtual world, and the transportation has become amazing. I can reach here in like 6 to 7 hours. So I don't think anything is stopping us, people with like-minded attitude, to come together and offer the knowledge, share what we have, and then say that, hey, it's time to make a change in the world. We don't have time too much to now, I would not say that we don't have the luxury in this planet anymore to actually be lazy and doing something by step. It's probably time for us to come together, share what we really have and what you have excelled and what I have excelled. Come together, share each other, come into the culture, do something deep rooted in the roots, but make a change together. So connection for me is, how do I say, the word probably to exist today. And we are always in search. Like I move a lot, I travel a lot. I think if traveling was a job, I think I would have excelled at it. So yeah, we're looking forward to much more connections. We are looking for design. If you look, when I said design, very early when I did not know what design was about, I was reading what is design, what is design, what is design. As a student, you are always confused. Like when do you say this is design and this is just an object? When do you say this is well designed and this is a design, or this is? So then there was an interesting book which I was reading, and it says that design is betterment. So design is betterment from what is existing from the last. So that means you need to have the right exposure. You need to know what existed in the world. So when you design, you are actually not wasting on a creative time alone. We are also thinking about how innovative it can become, because there is a lot of difference between just being creative and being innovative. So I thought that when you move, when you make connections, you get to know the best of the possibilities, so that you come together and you understand this is what is existing here, this is the best here, and then this is the scenario around, and then how, when we spend the time, we don't go back like inventing a tire. I'm like, everyone invents a tire, it moves in one direction. Why not a multi-wheel? Why not be a sphere or maybe just a globe which moves in all directions? So we feel that with connections, we have got an opportunity to actually get to know these things. And we can bring back the changes to our country all across the world, which is in probably the need, or it is in the times of building. So if we have already built something, if people have already done something, if I could be the case study of that, I could understand that what it was already done with the knowledge, with the context, with the relevance, if I can take back to the spaces and make it better, it would be amazing. So I think connections for me is everything which has changed in my life. Ideally, again, coming back to something I've told, the idea of design is so different from decoration. So decorating something is that, looking at something and saying, oh, this wall is there, now what will I do with the wall? But when it comes to design, it has to serve a bit more than aesthetics, a bit more than just the way the things feel. It has to offer something, So when personally in all the projects that we see that, oh, why this wall exists? Does this wall has to exist? Or if it exists, in what material does has to exist? Is it structural? Is it really doing something? Or it's just an elemental bifurcation just to have space planning? So this has been the fundamental questions, and Valcucine for me has been like 10 years of journey. So I've been very early introduced to Valcucine, and the first time when I saw Valcucine, it was a teal blue glass box. I'm like, super. So this is a space where I thought that things are becoming minimal without losing the roots of craft, the lose of, it appeared to me a very detailed engineered machine which is elegant. So every time when I speak to friends in Valcucine, or when I say, I think maybe we should do something in carbon fiber. Maybe we should do an invisible kitchen. So thing is, for us, the material has been a very informed subject, because as a practice also we try to do multiple projects like cross-laminated timber, concrete, aluminium, stainless steel, wood of multiple characters, glass, metal. So we have been a studio which kind of tries to work with different materials, and when it came to Valcucine, especially the glass, when I saw how amazingly it was crafted, and at the same time it's not boring and plain, it had some character, it had some detail. So Valcucine as an idea I really liked, and I also like the fact that it is respecting its roots but not stuck there. I always like the idea of the spirit, it's like I tell this also, like, when I see my temples, which is the best of Indian temples, and when I see the amazing Gothic church, people usually try to see the image of it, but as an architect or as a person, I always saw the spirit of it. Like, people came, collaborated with the best of the material possibilities at that point of time, spanned crazily, built tall, built whatever is the possibility of that collaboration of material which was available, and they did something extraordinary. So now if this is the civilization, and if people are going to Moon and Mars, probably it's time for us to start thinking about the basic material foundation, So probably the spirit of the legacy is more important than the actual image of the material itself. So that way I see Valcucine as a very growing firm or a brand with a similar principle, because I have met Chandaso as a founder very young. I met Massimo, the priest of maybe Valcucine, very young, and he gave me this one leaf from the Jingo Bilboa tree. I still have it in my notebook. So I was like, it came from Japan. These are the soldiers of Valcucine Pordenone. I'm like, amazing, like, because people see art, people see values, people see much more than probably a regular person see. For me, they are artists, they are philosophers, they are poets, they are the people who actually build the culture. And Valcucine, when coming back to the actual question of materials, I always think that, how do I say, this particular brand has a potential of extraordinary direction of research in materials, and it also had the stability, and it's also building something which is sturdy and lasting, and it is also building with designers, with an absolute where your country stands for and also the community stands for. So I feel, in terms of material knowledge, terms of space planning, the newer materials has to come in, so that a lot of obvious things which has been built from the past can completely go off from the interiors, because I always am dreaming to take a house, pack it in my bag, go to wherever I want, and then open it so that I can live in my house. Why not? So the other thing was, a beautiful experience that our studio had was an opportunity to build the flagship store for Valcucine in Dubai. So I met Ivan. Ivan is a good friend, of course, and I met him for the first time and became good friends because I thought he's a very sturdy, clear man, and we expressed the idea to actually build something. And then when the clients found the space in Index Tower, it was designed by Norman Foster, and right in the heart of Dubai, in the AFC area. And the building that we have got was so special that it just had one wall, and everything was this very clean, special curved glass, which was of course done beautifully by Foster's office. So then when we started working, we understood that it's such a difficult geometry. It had just a wall to play with. It had a large volume, of course, maybe one of the most prominent stores with a garden in the front. But then the thing is that what did we do? And then here there was two weights. The one weight was Valcucine being an amazing brand which is doing cutting edge minimalism and also sustainable. And then Norman Foster, of course, maybe one of the best architects who's already done something great, and then we have to work in it. So we were like, what would we do which would kind of, how do I say, justify the worth of doing something like that? Because it is an opportunity. It is an opportunity for any firm, and every building I feel is an opportunity if it is not rightly used. Otherwise it's lost forever, and because it stands and we disappear. So then when we started designing, the best part was like me collaborating with the Valcucine designers in Italy. So Claudia, Michelangelo. So these guys were coming together. We had a couple of video conferences. We had few sketches. Then they're like, maybe not this. I'm like, I think give me some time. So let's do it. So then Claudia and Michelangelo Claudia came to Dubai. She stayed for a couple of weeks, couple of days. Our team went in. We did a marking on site. We started discussing. She was so good at colors, and she was telling me so many things about the colors, the materials, the fundamental process of how they actually do this work. And it inspired me a lot because I understood more and more that it was actually about being minimal, but at not the same time being boring. So you had to come up with something substantially contextual, something which is integrated, I would say, the services, the technology, everything integrated, and at the same time respect the colors, maybe predict the future of the trends, and then come together a space which is more like a museum or a gallery rather than a showroom. So it was quite nice, and a lot of people, like especially we worked with a local architect called Agate Design in Dubai, and they have supported quite a lot. We supported vendors like Imar, who is actually maybe one of the most amazing vendors for the metalworks. So they worked with almost all major projects with Sana, Renzo Piano, all that. So they came in, they helped us to design this special ceiling, which is super curvy and super difficult to design. So yeah, for the interior design with Valcucine, for me was more learning about how minimal the things can be, but at contextual, but also detailed. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Valcucine, what the brand is trying to do, I would say that is something a must to do, because usually the product collaboration happens on individual projects, and if the brand allows a designer to come in and try to think the product in their own way, almost it becomes a piece of art, because the product here is, the idea here is not just to serve the idea of a working kitchen, but it also to use the designer to express this product as a way that he or she would express itself. So for me, the connected scenarios would open up the ideas also for the brand to look at the things and say, okay, probably it's not necessary to have a very regimental kitchen, or somebody I'm sure that tomorrow will come in and say that, okay, the kitchen might not have to be even this way, or probably something where people could have an idea to think rather than it's more like an inquiry, I would say, like something that you're searching for without an absolute outcome. So which is a really great thing for people to come together, and especially Narayan, whose project which is in the beginning, I really like the idea that it is more of like you can see a super good wooden details of a tropical house, or probably a Japanese Indian kind of a detail with a super nice finished scratched SS kind of a metal crude finish with a with a tropical kind of a green in it. So I would say that there is an integration of colors, there is an integration of, how do I say, or a sense of space where it would sit. And yeah, this is something that which I really loved as my favorite. So it's like a contrast of two things, which is very, how do I say, traditional in its way, with a super machine looking thing, but still taking the cues of colors from the environment. So I would say that that is what my favorite is. This is a conversation which happened a few weeks back. So we are all sitting in a table. So there was a couple of my friends from UAE. There is a guy from, 3 friends from Switzerland, 3 friends from India. So we were sitting here, and then we were sitting in this tight table and trying to eat something very nice. So we were asking, like, what do you think should change in a kitchen? And we were having this discussion. So not for specifically for Valcucine, but we were generally thinking, because if you really look at it in the olden days, like how things were, there was no real rooms for things. Like, the bed did not exist, so there was no bedroom. When bed got invented, then there came a bedroom. So otherwise it was just flexible spaces where people slept on the bed, on the floor, they moved, it became something else. It was designed around a space of flexibility. So when it came to kitchen, like, what I personally felt when I was in a space is this: my mother used to actually cook for me most of the things. Amazingly, she used to cook. And then I moved out. Then today, our generation, me and my wife, say that we stay in a apartment where we both cook together. And probably, let's say, when our friends comes, we try to cook, as community. Earlier days, the idea of community kitchen existed. The kitchen was like very flat. You could do anything anywhere. The stove did not exist. It was just firewood somewhere. So there was a lot of flexibility to people come together and do something together. So today's kitchen, I felt that it kinds of allows you to face the wall. I was like, why is it that? Why can't it be like more flexible, like a breakfast bar? You sit in and then you look straight, then you eat from there. And the truth is that we don't use a dining table too much anymore, because we are all rushed. We are getting in the morning, we are just packing stuff, then we are moving. So why can't this be like more allowing us to have a layout where people can actually do something together? So if 2 people have to work, again they are in a long bar, the guy sits next, or the lady will be next, maybe the other person is next. So somehow this idea of facing something and making a very, how do I say, result oriented stuff, which is like, I am going in the kitchen, I am cooking, has to kind of maybe evolve into today's spaces where it also allows people to come together and do something together. So I felt that it's more than the idea of me changing the kitchen design. I would say the layouts or the way that the kitchen responds to the space has to now change, which allows the flexibility for people to actually come and do something together. So island was like a very new thing which came into the market. So, but you still have, like, how do I say, 2 regimental clear box where people sits together, but still, you need to move there, you need to actually move in a line. Somehow for me, it is a bit mechanical. I'm still thinking, I don't have an answer for this, but this is something that I'm thinking that, how can the kitchen be a bit more flexible for people to come together and do something together? Because when I cook and when I do it in some other way and my wife does it in another way, we're always like, this is my space, this is yours. But more than that, how can we come together and say, yeah, this is how we do it together? So this is what my observation is.